Wait, so
Yes.
do I still have to do the homework because I wasn't there?
What?
Like, I wasn't there to learn the lesson for the homework, so do I still have to do it?
On Friday? We didn't do a lesson.
Oh, we didn't?
No,
Oh.
we just took a quiz.
Oh.
But yes, if you're gone, you still have to do the homework. But you didn't have homework. So, no then. All right, 11.4a is volume of a prism. Can anyone tell me what volume is? What does volume represent?
It's what's inside the thing.
It's what's inside. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, that's not for this.
Isn't it how much liquid a figure
You could think of it as liquid. It doesn't have to be a liquid. It could be a solid. In a water bottle, it would be a liquid, right? So the volume of that water bottle, for instance, is probably like 28 ounces, something like that. How much space?
32.
Oh, 32. There you go. The space a figure occupies, okay? So when we talk volume, we're talking three-dimensionally, right? It's space. So in space, that's a three-dimensional figure. The space a figure occupies is in cubic units then. So like centimeters cubed, inches cubed, feet cubed, okay? Because we're talking length and width and height, okay? Three-dimensional. So just keep that in mind. Whenever it's volume, you need to label like this, okay? When it's area, how do you label it? Squared. And if it's just the dimensions of the figure, the length or the width or the height, then it's just by itself, inches, feet, yards, right? Whatever that is. Okay, so we're going to start with something called Cavalieri's principle. We don't do a ton with this, but I just want you to have kind of a spatial reasoning, like an understanding of what's going on here. So here's what it says. If two space figures, two three-dimensional figures have the same height, okay, like you see here, all of these have the same height, okay, and the same cross-sectional area. So if you look at their cross sections, this has an area of 6, this parallelogram has an area of 6, and this triangle has an area of 6, 1/2 base times height. So if their cross section area and their height are all the same, then they will have the same volume, okay? Which gives you the volume formula, right? It's the area of a cross section, which is going to be the area of their base, right? This is the same figure. Okay, so that's B, the area of the base, times the height of the figure, how tall that figure is. So just keep in mind, volume will always be capital B times H when it's a prism. And then your B always represents what? Same as before. What does B stand for? What about it? The area of the base. Okay, B is area of the base. And then H is what? Same as before. Height of the figure. And this works again. It's the distance between the bases. Okay, that would be the height of the figure in a prism. And that's prisms is what we're going to talk about right now. Okay, the height of the figure or the distance between your bases. So you maybe learned a volume formula in like middle school or even elementary school. Does anyone remember a volume formula that you learned? Length times width times height. That's the same thing, essentially, length times width times height. That is for a rectangular prism, right? Because length times width would find you the area of the base times the height. Now, that only works in a rectangular prism, so that's why we don't use that formula all the time, because you'll see other prisms. You'll see a triangular prism. You'll see pentagonal prisms, hexagonal prisms, right? It doesn't work for those. So if you ever learned length times width times height for volume, that's fine. It only works with a rectangular prism, okay? That's why we say B times H, because it's the area of the base times the height. Okay, so take a look at this. I did a lot of drawings on these. Forgive my imperfections. If I want the volume of this rectangular prism, okay, volume is capital B times H. B represents what? What about it? The area of the base. Okay, now in a rectangular prism, you're allowed to use different things as your base. I'm going to stick with the bottom being our base on these. It doesn't have to. That's just what I'm going to do. Okay? So if the purple is our base, what is B right now? It's 60, right? It's length times width, base times height, however you want to think of that. So it's 12 times 5, or 60. Now, if this is my base, then what is my height? That's the 6. That's the distance between the two bases, right? So 6 is your height. So if I say volume equals base times height, it's 60 times 6, or 360 what?
Millimeters cubed.
Cubic millimeters cubed. Okay, so that'll be your volume, 360 cubic millimeters. Questions on that? Yeah, Grant.
I just realized I missed the last blank of the very first part. Can you go through
Volume, this one?
the volume? Yeah.
Okay, 2 more of these, and then we're done. What is this figure called? Number 2? Triangular prism. I wrote it in the question, right? Find the volume of the triangular prism. It is so tempting to people to use the base as a rectangle. Is your base a rectangle here? No, the base is always the two things that are parallel and congruent. So your bases are these two, right? This is a base, this is a base, okay? So when I say find the volume, you have to start by finding the area of what? The base, which is a triangle. How do you find the area of a triangle? Length times width divided by 2, base times height divided by 2, right? It's 1/2 times base times height is our capital B right now. What are the base and height in this triangle? 15 and 8, because it's a right triangle, right? If it's a right triangle, your base and your height are the two sides that you have that make the right angle, okay? So if I'm trying to find B, I'm trying to find the area of a triangle, 1/2 base times height. That would be 1/2 times 8 times 15, okay? That means my capital B, when you plug that in, 1/2 times 8 times 15 is 60, is that right? Yeah. So B is going to be 60. What's H?
22.
H is 22. H is always the distance between your two bases. Now here's the deal. Here's why I need you to be careful. Anyone see an issue here with my labeling?
There's 2 heights.
There's 2 heights. Okay?
Doesn't it mean the height of the figure?
They're not the same heights, right? This height is the height of the triangle. This height is the height of the figure. Okay, so be careful with that. When we're looking for B times H, this H is the height of the figure. This H is the height of the base, which is the height of the triangle in this case. Okay, so keep that straight. Yes, this is a height, but it's only a height in terms of finding the area of our triangle. This height is the height that is in our formula. So when we're doing volume equals BH, this one is this one. It's the distance between your bases. Does that make sense? Julie, did you have a question? Okay. So H right now is going to be 22. So if I say volume equals base times height, then volume equals 60 times 22. If you multiply that, you get 1,320. How do you label it? Inches cubed, because it's volume.
This would be a try.
What do you mean a try?
Like this next one, can we try on ourselves?
Yes, that's it. That's exactly what I was going to have you do. This one's harder. Okay?
Why would you say that?
Because it is. Because here's the deal. If you're finding the area of the base, what shape is your base?
Triangle.
A triangle. So you're finding the area of this triangle. Do you have a base and height for that triangle?
No.
So you're going to need to find the height using what you know.
Ew.
You can either do 1/2 AP or you can think of it like this as your height. Okay, so 1/2 AP if you want, or 1/2 base times height, but you got to find that H first. So give that one a go. It's definitely tougher, but I believe in you. You've done this a million times over. Think special right triangles, 30, 60, 90s, 45, 45, 90s. How does that work? Your triangle looks like this, right? It's 8 on every side because this 8 is this 8. So if you draw that height in, first of all, a triangle that has all sides of 8 is what kind of triangle?
Equilateral.
Equilateral. So can you tell me the angle measure of each angle? 60. 180 divided by 3. So these are all 60. So if you draw that height in, maybe that's 30 and 30 then? Okay, so you set up your triangle. When you're working with this triangle here, this would be 4 and 4, right? Now you have a 30, 60, 90. Okay, if you've forgotten your 30, 60, 90 setup, this is L rad 3, and 2L, right? So this is 2L, this is L. That means this is L rad 3 or 4 rad 3. Okay, so the height of that triangle, the height of your base is 4 rad 3. That means to find B, the area of the base, you need to do 1/2 times base times height. Well, B right now is this 8, okay, or this 8, if you will. Okay, that's the B. That's the base of your base. It's a lot of B's going on, right? So that's 8. H is this length, which is this length, so 4 rad 3. Okay, so when we're looking for B, it's 1/2 times base times height. 1/2 times 8 times 4 rad 3. Plug that in without the radical. 1/2 times 8 times 4 comes out to 16 rad 3. So 16 rad 3 is your capital B. Okay? What is your H as in the height of the figure in this one?
10.
It's the 10. It's the distance between your two bases. Okay, so that's 10. So now if I want the volume, it's B times H. So it's 16 rad 3 times 10, which is 160 rad 3 inches cubed. Okay, now if they ask you to round it, that would be about 277.1 cubic inches. Okay, so I like this one better. I like the simplest radical because it's an exact answer. But if they ask you to round, you just plug that in. Questions on that? Okay, I know that one's hard, right? There's a lot going on. So we're going to end on this one. Draw for yourself a rectangular prism. Do you know how to draw a good rectangular prism? It's been a while maybe. I draw the rectangle and then I draw all of my lines coming off of it and connect them. And then my dotted lines meet in the back here. All right, so let's say you have this prism and this is 8 centimeters and 5 centimeters and 11 centimeters. Find the volume of that prism. Remember, volume of a prism is B times H. Solve that. Much simpler. sorry, I forgot to record. The area of that is gonna be 8 times 5, right? It's a rectangle, so that's B. What's H? It's gonna be the 11, right? So 8 times 5 times 11 will be your volume. So 40 times 11, oops, so your volume is 440 centimeters cubed. Questions on that? All right.